So hello and welcome back to Run Fast Lift Heavy. Today I'm joined by Ella Crouch. Ella, thank you for taking the time to come on.
No problem. Happy to be here.
So for people who don't know who you are, could you just give an explanation about what it is you do?
Yeah, sure. So I started off as a PT, working in commercial gyms. As you know, I qualified and I started from the bottom, did all those nasty shifts, opening the gym at 4:30 and cleaning the equipment and everything. So I did that when I graduated. I actually did my degree in languages, completely different. But whilst I was at uni, I developed anorexia. And that eating disorder, to recover from it, I used weightlifting, and I hired an exceptional PT who is still one of my friends to this day. He's awesome. And he really taught me how to look after my body, how to fuel it, how to build muscle, and taught me a new way of living, basically, and how to respect my body. And by the time I graduated, I'd fully recovered, and I was so into weightlifting that I was like, you know what, I don't want to do this for my job. I want to be a PT, and I want to help other people how this PT helped me. So like I say, I qualified after uni, did my course, worked in commercial gyms. I did a master's for a year, and then I set up my own business as a freelancer after that. That was the first year that I competed in bodybuilding. So we're talking about if I graduated when I was about 24, I'm now 30. And I'm now in my third season of bodybuilding, or third competitive, as in getting on stage. I've had off seasons as well. So I set up my business as a freelancer after I first competed, with the intention of just teaching women how to empower their body through weightlifting. Whether you're a lifestyle client and you want to learn how to lift weights properly, how to actually stop fearing food and calorie restriction and thinking that you always have to diet, and actually if you train hard, you build muscle, you can actually eat more and look better, which is something that I learned in the process of my recovery and really helped me with my relationship with food. So that's kind of like my goal of lifestyle clients. Or obviously if they need to drop body fat, we drop body fat, and then I teach them how to build muscle, and we go through that cyclic process of transforming a physique. And then obviously myself being into competing, I do work with competitors as well. So I have kind of a combination, a variety of clients, typically female, some men. So working with a lot of first timers at the minute, getting into bikini or figure. So I've now really transitioned to more online. Mm-hmm. I started, like I say, on the gym floor. I now have a handful of one-to-one clients who I PT, but the majority I work with online so that I can work with people from all over the country.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, touching on getting women involved in strength training, that's the core concept of my PT as well, because I think if someone wants to lose weight, if all you're focusing on is fat loss and the scale, weight fluctuates like this. Even if you want to go down, it's going to be up, down, because of the time of the month, what you've eaten, if you've been able to go to the toilet, etc. So if you can shift the focus on to your performance and how much you're lifting, then I think that keeps people more bought into the long-term process, and then fat loss will be a byproduct of that.
Yeah, especially when it comes to lifestyle clients, a lot of them don't have a healthy relationship with food. You know, they think certain foods are bad, they fear eating too many calories, too many carbs. Mm-hmm. They worry about meals out, or they worry about holidays. So actually, just by improving their relationship with food, the byproduct of that is often fat loss, because they can be more consistent.
Yeah, totally. I think as well that with your online coaching, I think there should be more of a shift for general population to go online, because we know that, an hour PT session will help and it will move the needle, but that 1 hour, there's 23 other hours in the day, which is exactly where people will likely screw up. So you've got to have the 24/7 accountability. And like, let's say you're a PT and you provide, I don't know, an hour session, that's the only thing that's in person. Everything else, nutrition check-ins, programs, is all online anyway.
100%. So that's what I do. I only have a select few of one-to-one clients, because that's my most exclusive service, because it's not just that one-to-one hour, because yeah, that one-to-one hour is important to really learn technique and to show someone what it really means to push yourself in the gym. Um, but my one-to-one also includes the check-ins, the programming, the support around that,
Mhm.
because that, like you say, that 1 hour in the week isn't going to change your physique. It's what you're doing day in, day out.
Yeah. So with your bodybuilding competing, can you talk me through the first time you decided to step on stage? Were you nervous about it? What did your first prep look like? And what have you
Yeah.
learned in the process?
So it's funny because I never wanted to bodybuild. I once dated a guy who bodybuilded, and he was like, "Oh, you'll do it one day," and I was like, "No, I won't." Like that's so weird. Like I just didn't understand the concept of getting like
Yeah.
clean, turning yourself up and standing on in a bikini. Like I just didn't get it. And a couple of years later, I've always trained like a bodybuilder. It's just been my lifestyle. It's been the way that I've learned to weightlift. Um, I like the structure of it. Me as a person, I like structure. I like routine. It really suits me. It makes me happy. Just the bodybuilding lifestyle.
Mm.
I tracked my macros for quite a while since after my recovery, because again, for me, that taught me how to fuel my body. It taught me that I can eat what I want in moderation and still hit calories, so I can still look good and eat what I want. So I always trained like a bodybuilder and had that lifestyle. And I was like, you know what? People keep saying that like I have good muscle mass. Why don't I actually just try competing if I already
Mm.
live the bodybuilder lifestyle anyway? So I was like, right, I'm going to knuckle down. I'm going to do an off season, focused, put on some muscle, and then compete the following year. And I really needed that for me as a goal, because I kind of felt like you talked about having performance-based goals is really good. But I kind of felt I was no longer motivated by, oh, I want to be able to do 10 pull-ups. Like I could do 10 pull-ups, or I dabbled in CrossFit for a little bit because I got bored, and I really needed something to challenge me to a greater level, and really get me out of my comfort zone. I was no longer getting that motivation from seeing just simple weight progresses in the gym. Like I needed something bigger than that. And that's where I find bodybuilding really fulfilling. It's competing is one of the hardest things I've ever done. Um, like right now, the phase that I'm in before the show is the hardest week of the whole prep. And each morning I'm like going out, getting my steps, I've got my coffee, and I'm like, right, I know I'm exhausted, like I'm hungry, but I can do this. I can do this. Just take it day by day. Like these days, which are hard and that challenge you to get out of your comfort zone, when you're telling yourself you can't, but you prove yourself you can. Like that's for me, that's the rewarding. That's what I gained from this process.
Mm.
So my first season, yeah, like it was a shock. It was, like I said, the hardest thing I ever did. I wasn't nervous, and I really thought I would be, because I wasn't a very self-confident person, in the sense like I've never been the center of attention. I've never liked being on stage or speaking in front of people. I got better at it as I got older and I went to uni and stuff like that. But for me, the scariest part was stepping on a stage in front of people and having to do a routine by myself in front of people. That was probably the scariest part. But then by the time you get to the day, you've grafted your ass off for months on end. You've put in all this hard work. And I was like, do you know what? I'm just so buzzing
Mm.
to go and show what I've done, whether I win or not. I went in with no expectations as the first time. I was like, if I place, I'll be fucking chuffed. So then when I actually won, I was like, oh my God, like I just wasn't expecting it. You go with no expectations. And like the day, there's such a hype at the shows. I don't know if you've ever been to a bodybuilding show, but there's like the music, everyone's like cheering you on. It's just such like a fun day. And you're getting glammed up and you're getting ready, and it's like the icing on the cake after all these months of hard work. So funnily enough, no, I wasn't nervous. I was the one backstage. The other girls were shitting themselves, and I was like, guys, come on, like you've worked really hard for this, just enjoy it. So yeah, to answer your question,
Yeah.
surprising I wasn't.
It's funny, I used to think it was a bit of, I didn't consider bodybuilding a sport at all. I didn't understand it. I thought like, I don't know, I didn't understand why someone would want to stand up on a stage and get critiqued by someone else on their body. Like I didn't get it. And then I recently got into like just basically the YouTuber bodybuilding space, and Christian Guzman, Josh Bridgman, Joe Brightman,
Mhm.
all of those people. And I understand that it's an art, like you are sculpting your body and you're showing,
Literally.
yeah, and it's, I think it's absolutely unbelievable. And watching you go through your prep, the discipline that you have is brilliant. So first of all, good on you. Second of all, I want to touch on that discipline. So before a show, I'm assuming you're going to go through a bulk phase. So you'll be in a calorie surplus, building muscle.
Yeah.
Then you start cutting. How long are you cutting for, and what does it look like for you?
Cool. So the cut depends on the person and how much body fat they've got to lose, how lean do they need to get, depending on your category criteria. My category criteria requires striated upper body, visible quads, visible hamstrings, glutes, so peeled basically. So my prep, when I compete next week, that will have been about 22 weeks, I think. It's one of those things with fat loss when you're trying to, so in prep, you've built all this muscle, the prep is just to strip back the fat. So you want to maintain as much muscle mass as possible whilst in a calorie deficit. And if you can take it slower and steadier, the better, because if you do an aggressive cut, that's when you can potentially risk losing muscle mass. So it's been a long prep, but I've looked the best I've ever looked because of, I think, obviously seasons of hard work accumulating together, but it's been a very successful prep, taking it really slow and steady. My body's responded really well to that.
So you're tracking your food, everything that goes into your body. How many times a week are you training?
So I train 5 times a week. I have a steps goal. I don't have any direct cardio. I did at the beginning of prep, but we pulled that out because I was dropping weight. I just didn't need it. So yeah, I track every single calorie really that goes into my body. You just have to be on it when it comes to bodybuilding. If your coach is changing your calories by like 50 or 100 calories, that has to have an impact. So you have to know exactly what's going in. So people are always amazed by that, but to be honest, it doesn't really bother me. Like, yeah, sometimes I think, okay, so yesterday I was exhausted and I was like, I could kill a brownie or just something really sweet. Like I said, I'm in this last week, I'm at my most tired, I'm at my hungriest. But the discipline element that you were referring to, it's like food's always going to be there afterwards. And I perfectly am satisfied by my food that I eat now, in the sense of like I adjust to eating simple things. I've always ate simple food anyway. In my off season, before I even bodybuilded, I'm like a healthy person. That's obviously part of being a PT, I think. I enjoy simple, healthy food. I always have done. So it doesn't bother me eating the same things day in, day out, which are very simple. Like I say, after my show, I will be very excited for a burger and a brownie. But no, I just tell myself that like food's always going to be there afterwards. Like, what do I want more? To go and eat a brownie right now and not win my show, or to win my show first, and then the brownie will always be there afterwards.
Yeah, you touched on at the start having anorexia, and if you don't mind me asking, when you bring your calories down, how are you, I guess you're thinking about performance and stepping on stage, so it's different to restricting it for mental health reasons, but how do you differentiate between the two and make it healthy rather than a form of like restriction? Do you know
Yeah,
what
no, that's a
I'm
good
getting at?
question, because there are similarities. There are similarities between the sport and the eating disorder, like in terms of restriction. So when I first competed, I was actually a little bit nervous to tell my friends and family, because I didn't want them to think, oh, she's restricting to a crazy amount, she wants to get like really skinny and lean again. And I was certain in myself that I was fully recovered. Some people say there's no such thing as fully recovered. I am 100%, I believe, fully recovered. I could never be anorexic again. I don't think there's such a thing as normal eating. I think everyone has, in some way, weird food habits, or weird, whatever you want to call it. We all eat differently. If people think that I'm not normal because I track my calories, well, I might think someone else is not normal for binging at the weekend and then feeling shit for it by Sunday. Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone's different. There's no such thing as normal. I was 100% confident that my relationship with food was absolutely sound before I competed, and that's one thing that I tell anyone who competes. as my client, I will not put them in for a show if I think that their food relationship is poor. It will only potentially worsen that, damage it. You could risk after shows binging or something very negative. So I was a bit nervous to tell my friends and family that I'm competing. And the first prep, I was living with my parents and they saw me, get smaller. They saw me eating less. They saw me get very tired and grouchy by the end of it. So it was difficult, but I just had to reassure them that this is short term. It's this last month that I'm going to be tired and hungry, and then I go back to normal. Then I gain my body fat back. Then I eat more, and I proved that to them. I didn't need to prove it to myself. I knew I was fully recovered, and I knew that I could handle the prep, because it's mentally challenging to anyone, whether you've had an eating disorder or not. But when I gained my body fat back post-show, because you have to do that, and I was glad to do that. You don't want to sustain that level of leanness. I think everyone around me realized, okay, I am, because it's not a very well-known sport, like you say. A lot of people don't even recognize it as a sport. I didn't used to either. When I thought, what's all this about? Right, it's not a real sport. So a lot of people don't understand it. So I don't understand. Like my best friends now, they know that I'm in my third season. They've seen me go through it times now, but they still don't really get it. They know what I have to do. I have to eat less and I have to do cardio and stuff, and then I get on a stage and they know that I'm going to be a bit tired and hungry. But that's a huge understatement of what you go through. But the last couple of weeks, I won't lie, they're not healthy. My body fat is unhealthily low. Food focus increases. You're tired, you're grouchy, you're hungry. It's very reminiscent the last few weeks of what having an eating disorder is like. It doesn't affect me mentally, it doesn't bother me, because I know that this is short term. It's a few weeks, and then I gain my body fat back, then I eat more. It doesn't in any way for me trigger anorexic thoughts. If anything, it reminds me how grateful I am that I'm no longer anorexic. It's a glimpse of what my life used to be like day in, day out for years, when I feel tired and drained and hungry. I had a PT client in a month, and we were talking about prepping and the restriction of it, and he did Ramadan. And I was like, sorry to be ignorant. I've learned about Ramadan when I was younger at school, but remind me why you do Ramadan. And he was like, well, it's a restriction thing. We don't eat or drink throughout the day. So we fast for however long it is. And then that makes us appreciate when we finish. It really makes us appreciate what we have: food, drink, the ability to go out and socialize and eat with friends and family. And I said, that's so funny, because that's what I gained from prep. Every year, it really makes me appreciate the small things. And then I come out of prep just with so much more gratitude in my day-to-day life. I feel like I've gone off on a little bit of a tangent.
No, that's awesome. Yeah.
The anorexia.
Yeah. So the last 22 weeks, every calorie has been tracked. You're doing morning steps. I'm assuming you've turned down meals out, social occasions, birthdays. Can you touch on that? And then can you also touch on the fact, I want to know why you do it, because bodybuilding, like you said, it's not well known. The prize money is pretty shit in most circumstances. It's expensive. Imagine you're paying for a coach, your bikinis, tan, makeup.
It's a lot of money,
everything. Why are you doing it? What's your motivation?
Like I said at the beginning, I needed a goal which really challenged me. And you touched up on describing bodybuilding as an art form, and I look at it in the same way. I really admire people who can sculpt their physique, not because I want to look a certain way, because I'm unhappy in my body. I'd be happy in my body if I stopped competing tomorrow. It's nothing to do with how I look, which is the irony of it. And I think there's a massive misconception around bodybuilding, that it's very narcissistic. People just want to look their best. For me, it's not about how I look. It's about setting myself a mentally challenging goal, which pushes me to an extreme. It is sculpting my body, and I do see that as an art form, but I don't do it for how I don't do it because I'm unhappy with my appearance. But I think seeing the progress year on year of building muscle and then sculpting it and refining it, it's very artistic. I love the poses on stage, how you show off that physique. Again, very artistic. And like I said previously, the other reason why I enjoy doing it, even though I have to sacrifice things like you say, social events, holidays I've missed out on, my friends' weddings I can't eat and drink, stuff like that. It's very short-lived. It's like 3 months of that year, however frequently I'm competing. Let's say 3 months that year. And it really makes me appreciate everything when I finish. I think gratitude is one thing that I really learned in my eating disorder recovery, and it's something that I practice every day now. And really kind of reinforces that.
What's the ugly truth of being that shredded? Because some people might, especially lads, I'm assuming, when they see gents on bodybuilding stages, they might think, God, I want to look like that. Can you look like that forever?
No, absolutely not. So when you're prepping, you're peaking your body for one moment on stage. Like the show is in 10 days. I'm not ready yet because we're peaking for that day. Day by day now, I'm checking with my coach. The physique that you put on stage is in no way sustainable. Your calories are very low. Your output is very high. You're tired. You're hungry. The ugly truth, like I said, is the way of putting it. So, God, let me think. If I describe from when I wake up in the morning, so I wake up already tired, not feeling fully recovered from the day before. My legs are heavy from my output the day before, but I have to go out again, walk for an hour. I usually don't eat until about 11, by which point I'm absolutely starving. And when I say starving, I'm not going to get a nice filling meal. It's going to be like an egg white omelette or something. You are never fully satisfied by your meals when you're this hungry. It's kind of just ticking over. On top of feeling drained, you've then got to go perform in the gym, which is another reason why I think bodybuilding is one of the hardest sports there are. You have sports where you have to perform, but they're not performing in a strict calorie deficit. I have to go and maintain my lifts whilst eating a lot less food. So yeah, you've got to go train, you've got to put in hours of work of posing, which is really hard work. Probably the hardest part of the sport, I think, learning the posing. Again, end of the day, come home hungry, have like your low calorie dinner. It can affect your sleep quality can start to take a hit. Your mood can fluctuate quite a lot because, you're just getting drained. So you are susceptible to being a little bit more emotional, especially as a woman, a bit more up and down, a bit hangry, if you want to use that word, maybe an extreme level of hangry sometimes. It's a funny process. It's really hit and miss. Some days I feel so energetic and positive, and I'm like, right, let's go smash the show. And then the next day I can wake up and be like, oh my God, I feel hit by a bus. Like today is going to be a drag. But that's the challenge.
Talking about posing, I challenge anyone to stand flexing their muscles for 2 minutes without uncontrollably shaking. That is an extreme amount of muscular endurance.
It is.
It's
call it posing endurance.
It's so hard. Like I think that's completely overlooked as well. You're not just standing on stage doing nothing. You're full on tensing every single ounce of muscle that you have. So Ella, you've got your show, and then how are you going to build back to a healthy level of fat on your body
after my show? We'll add food back in. So let's say I'm on in a deficit of 800 calories. We'll bring my calories back up to maintenance. The main thing post-show is that you get a healthy level of body fat back and that you don't continue to over-restrict. So we have to increase food. If we don't increase it enough, you're going to struggle with the things that I just mentioned. Your sleep, your digestion, your recovery is still going to be pretty crappy. If you increase calories too quickly, you're going to gain body fat back in an unhealthy way.
Mhm.
especially if we talk about things like binging and stuff. So we want to bring calories back up to maintenance. Your first thing that you're going to see is your glycogen stores and your muscles fill out. You're going to look fuller. You're going to get some water retention back in there. And then you'll slowly start to add on body fat. So we kind of, over the weeks after the show, just keep adding food slowly until we're happy with looking at the health markers in my body composition,
Mm.
that, you know, okay, it takes a couple of months to recover from a show because your body's drained. So a couple of months down the line, we can then start pushing things, but right, let's
Mm.
build some muscle.
Yeah. So just to finish off, I just want to ask you, someone, let's say Sally, she's 50, she
Mm.
weighs about 80 kilos, struggles with her fitness, wants to lose about 15 kilos of fat. What are you saying to her to help her stick to that diet and stick to that lifestyle?
Find, well, you've nailed it on the head, it's a lifestyle.
Hmm.
Find a daily routine, a way of living day in, day out, which you enjoy and you can sustain,
Mm. Yeah.
with regards to food and with regards to exercise. So if you hate going to the gym, don't go to the gym to get fit. Go for a walk with your mates in the park,
Mm-hmm.
go swimming, go hiking, play a team sport,
Yeah.
do yoga, just stay active
Yeah.
regularly.
Mm-hmm.
Plenty of walking is always a great one for fat loss.
Yeah.
And then the same with your diet. As I said before, we touched up on how like there's no one way to eat. We're all different.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to always be stuff in the media telling you do this, do that, and just ignore it all and find a way that you can eat healthily but enjoy it,
Yeah.
and it also contributes to your health and your body composition goals.
Mm.
So I tell my clients the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
80% of what you eat wants to come from like raw, simple, nutritious, calorie, like nutrient dense foods. So think like potatoes, rices, meats, eggs, fruits, vegetables.
Mm.
And the other 20 should be what we enjoy,
Yeah.
because for me and for most of my clients, we kind of get the best results if every day we're having a little bit of something we enjoy and we're not feeling restricted. It's just that
Mhm.
key word, moderation.
Yeah.
So finding a diet that you enjoy and a way of exercising that you enjoy and that you can maintain.
Yeah, like you said, everyone's different, and the best diet's the one that you can adhere to. So I think for most people, it's obviously you're an extreme athlete, but a diet shouldn't have an expiry date. It should just be the way that you live forever.
Yeah,
It shouldn't be right, 15 kilos, let's do it 3 months, and then you go all the way back up again. It should just be you gradually bring it down, and then you're able to sustain that forever and make it part of your lifestyle.
exactly. Yeah. And when you're consistent day in, day out, because you enjoy what you do and it keeps you on track, if you have a holiday or if you have a meal out, it
Yeah.
shouldn't really be like, oh, I've done all my hard work and
Mm.
this and that, because that's just one event. If
Yeah.
you're pretty consistent the rest of the time, it won't make a difference.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like one brownie isn't gonna make you put on weight, just like one workout isn't gonna make you skinny.
Mm.
Like, stop being all or nothing. Just take it one day at a time. If you fall off the wagon, just get back on it, you know?
Yeah, an all or nothing mindset is very detrimental, and that's what holds people back.
Yeah.
That's what held me back, but in the opposite sense of
Mhm.
being underweight. Here we're talking about being overweight. I was obviously
Yeah.
extremely underweight, being anorexic when I was younger. And it was that black and white mindset
Yeah.
of this is good, this is bad, I should eat this or I shouldn't eat that.
Mm.
And when we learn moderation, we can enjoy what we eat.
Yeah.
We can enjoy our favorite foods and still look good.
Ella, thank you very much for your time. For people that are interested in finding out more about you, where can people find you?
So my Instagram handle is Ella_Crouch_figure.
Mhm.
And my link to my website is there as well. So you can find out more about kind of what I do with my clients and bodybuilding and how I coach. So yeah, feel free to
Awesome.
follow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.